Welcome to Active Gamer Life. I am your host, The Red Knight. Now, I hope you will take the time before watching this video to go and watch the previous Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 Theory of All Theories video, because you won't understand this video too much unless you watch that one. I mean, think of this video as an expansion pass to the previous video, so this being the Champion's Ballad. But honestly, I was really happy with how well that video was received, because creating that video was super fun, but I didn't know how well it was going to actually go over with you guys, and for the most part, you all loved it. Yeah, for the most part. Because in reality, there was a bunch of people going into the comment section talking about, "No, Red! The Silent Princess represents Zelda! You're an idiot! You're dumb!" And it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. When I was playing Breath of the Wild, I got the references between Zelda and the Silent Princess. I was not playing Breath of the Wild thinking that the Silent Princess represented a hand from a Zelda game that I didn't even know existed. I mean, for crying out loud, what exactly do you think that we were doing here? Like, this is not facts. This is all just theories. It's all in good fun to pass the time till we get to the inevitable release of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild sequel. And in all reality, not even that. It's really till we pass the time till we get to the next trailer to the Breath of the Wild sequel, so that we can get a bunch of goodies and then continue to create crazy theories like the previous video and like the theories that I'm going to be presenting in this video. So yeah, please relax with all the facts, and this, that. It's a theory video. It's all in good fun. It's all a reach. Just like when in the previous video, I was reaching and grasping at even floor tiles, 4 circles, 4 squares. Hey, this is all a reach. All of it. And hell, I even cut a reach out in that video. This reach right here. I was like, oh look, the 7 wise men. But one of them is kneeling down. It's like he's talking to Fee. Hey, I cut that out because I was like, you know what, I'm reaching enough. I'ma just chill, but I brought it back full circle just because I found it hilarious that people were getting so bent out of shape about a bunch of theories. It's just all in good fun. Let's be clear. I never want to be right about the sequel to Breath of the Wild, because if any of these videos are 100% spot on, that means I spoiled the next Zelda game for myself years before it released, and you best believe I do not want that to be the case. Will I like certain things to be right, or like I was on the right track but was completely off by a whole bunch? Absolutely, that'll be fun, you know what I'm saying? So that I can say, oh yeah, look at this theory video from blah 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 back when I was saying, oh look, it might go this way, and I was close, I was on to something, but this, that happened. You know what I'm saying? That's what I want more than anything. I don't want all of this to be right, because then it would just ruin the fun for me. So now, that all being said, let's get into this video, because yes, there was some of you who were being super negative in the comments, but there was others who came with good criticisms, like, hey Red, if you're saying that Fee is always a sage, then there would be more than 8 because of Wind Waker. And I'm like, oh snap, you threw it back. I forgot about the 2 that they added. And this video came to fruition, because I feel that if your theory is really good, when people come and bring things to your attention like that, your theory should still be able to hold up. And this theory, oh, you best believe it is still going to hold up. So without further ado, let's get into it. So before I start tackling the whole idea of there being more than 8 sages, I gotta tackle one of the most common criticisms that was also found in the previous video comment section. And that was that Fee can't be a sage. No way Fee is a sage. It doesn't make sense for Fee to be a sage. You're such an idiot. Why would you make Fee a sage? That's such a stupid thing to do. And I'm just sitting there like, Jesus Christ, these people are so adamant about the idea that Fee isn't a sage. So fine, I'm going to entertain that. And I am going to entertain them by tackling their own clearly believed to be factual idea that Fee cannot be a sage. So I went over to Zelda Wiki and I pulled some choice quotes, right, on the purpose of sages. And I quote, "Serving as a bridge between the sacred realm and Hyrule, guarding the Master Sword's power and executing those who pose a high threat to Hyrule are included with their duties, leaving their purpose best to be described as protectors of the kingdom. Revealed by Rauru, the original sages were the ones who built the Temple of Time to protect the Triforce against those who would use it for evil. The Triforce was hidden in the Temple of Light, the only sage temple to be built in the sacred realm. While each of the sage temples seems to grant access to it, only the Temple of Time is meant to do so for non-sages. Therefore, it was protected with a seal controlled by the Master Sword." And end quote. Now, I don't know about you guys, but Guarding the Master Sword's power and executing those who pose a high threat to Hyrule sounds exactly like what Fi does, being the whole Blade of Evil's Bane and all of that good stuff. I mean, I personally feel like the opening line of the quote that I took basically tells you everything you need to know, serving as the bridge between the Sacred Realm and Hyrule. That right there should tell you everything you need to know. The sages basically created their own personal bridges to the Sacred Realm so that they can jump back and forth between realms, those being sacred temples. They created two different ones from their specific ones. One is exclusively in the Sacred Realm. It's a Temple of Light, which houses and protects the most important thing in the Zelda series, the Triforce of power, wisdom, courage, all of that good stuff. Then you have the other one, which is the Temple of Time. And that one is made specifically so that non-sages can get into the Sacred Realm if for any reason they need that to be a thing. They created one. And the only way to get through is with the help of, in my opinion, a sage. Fi, the Master Sword. Jam it into the Temple of Time, and you will get transported. Hopefully it won't be for 7 years, and not a trick like what Ganon did to Link in Ocarina of Time. But you get what I'm saying. It's all right there, right in your face. And if that's not enough for you, I will gladly sit here and discuss Fi's origin with you. Where did Fi come from? Literally given birth to by the great statue of Hylia on Skyloft. Yes, you have to go under Hylia's dress and pull Fi out, and Fi acted like the first ever sage. She was your guide and helped you power up the Master Sword. So yes, by all intents and purposes, in my opinion, Fi is a sage. I 100% believe that. Yes, beyond theorizing and all of that, I believe that Fi is a sage. So now that that's out the way and I've established Fi as a sage, we can get back to our regularly scheduled program. So in the previous video, I had this whole idea that there were 8 sages. And I gave you multiple reasons and cool ideas and even had this awesome moment in the Temple of Time where I justified the 8. And now it's like if it's all out the window because someone went ahead and brought up the fact that Wind Waker added 2 extra sages to the lineup. So if we're going by my theory, there should be 10. And not 9, because when Wind Waker added 2, it went from 7 to 9. So, if in my theory Fi is a sage, who are the other 9 to make up the 10? In order to justify my previous theory and all of that. Well, before we get to that, we gotta go back to Zelda Wiki to get another quote. And I quote, "The Wind Waker brought 2 more sages to the roster, seemingly functioning independently from the 7 sages. This group's total number is not specified, and due to their current one-time appearance, it is also unclear if their responsibilities outrange solely taking care of the Master Sword's power to repel evil. But just as with the 7 sages, the absence of only one is enough to break their power." End quote. Alright, so 2 things we can take away from that quote. 1, damn, I was right in my previous video with the whole 6 sages trying to seal Ganondorf and Twilight Princess and him being like, nah, clotheslining one of them. Correct, see? Because if only even one is missing, it's going to break their power. And the other part I want to take from this is this group's total number is not specified, which justifies 100% where we going with the whole idea of there being 10, not 9 sages and not 8 like I proposed in the previous video. So, who are these new sages? Well, obviously you already know some of them because I talked about them in the previous video. But let me break it down who I believe all these sages to be. So, first things first. Medley and Makar are the 2 sages that went ahead and grew the number of confirmed sages from 7 to 9. Medley and Makar, if you remember, Medley is a Rito who gets her sage juju from Zora, and Makar is Korok, who gets his sage juju from a little boy. Now, the reason why I bring that up is because I believe sages do need to get their essence from someone or something that died previously. Like, I believe that the 7 wise men led to obviously the 7 maidens in the next, reincarnation of the sages. And let me tell you, I never liked that whole 7 wise men thing because it never made sense to me that all the sages would be men. So yeah, it makes perfect sense that if we're going to take those 7 sages and we're going to go by my rules real quick, I got to go back and start, jumping the shark. The one kneeling down is talking to Fi. That's 8, and the other 2 are Impa and Zelda, and they're nowhere to be found because Zelda's smart enough to know that, listen, the evil is always going to want to try to take out the sages because it knows that, we need these sages. So Zelda was like, you know what, we're going to make all the known sages dudes. We don't got to worry about Fee. She's hidden because she's in the sword. And us two, we out of here. That's what I like to believe. Now, I really just don't like the idea of it was like, oh yeah, the first sages were all men, because, I mean, just men. Come on, man. We all know women are better than men in all facets of life. It just is what it is. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, back on point. The reason why I bring up Medley and Makar's ancestors is for the simple fact that I'm going to talk about ancestors soon enough. And I don't want anybody being like, oh yeah, but look at that. You're wrong because, a sage doesn't have to be the exact same race of the thing that came before. You know what I'm saying? Look at Wind Waker. Well, I'm going to justify that real quick. And it's not even justifying. It's just the truth. Makar is a Korok. He gets his sage juju from a Kokiri. Kokiris are known to have evolved into Koroks after the Great Flood. That's a fact. You know what I'm saying? So yes, the same race passed on its sage juju to its exact race. Now you're gonna be like, but the Zoras and the Ritos. Well, all you Zelda aficionados out there, you already know. Great Flood, again, a bunch of the Zoras evolved into the Ritos. Yes, Rito are evolved forms of Zora. So again, juju passed down to the exact same thing, basically, just to keep it straight. So now let's get to who these sages actually are. So, Yonobu, he's 1. Riju, 2. Teba, 3. Sidon, 4. Impa, 5. Fi, 6. 7. The Silent Princess, which, as you know if you watch the previous video, that is the hand that we see in the Breath of the Wild sequel trailer. 8 being Zelda. 9 is literally told to us in Breath of the Wild, and that's the Lord of the Mountain, described in Breath of the Wild as being a reincarnated sage. Now, before anyone goes ahead and starts saying, oh yeah, but how does that sage even help Link in Breath of the Wild? Well, before the Champions Battle came out, that sage was the fastest way to get around Hyrule. I mean, just unlimited stamina, running at ridiculously super fast speeds. So yeah, I would say that was helpful. I know I used it multiple times to get around Hyrule in my first playthrough. So yeah, that's 9. Now, who is the 10th? I was going to give this honor actually to the King of Hyrule because of the opening of the game, but then I was like, nah, and if anything, to me, I feel like that was one of Zelda's abilities, to have the King of Hyrule remain there until the champion will return so that he can train the champion before letting him off of the Great Plateau. No different from Zelda throwing her voice to say, Link, wake up, and all of that good stuff. I think that's what it was, because once he disappeared, he was gone forever, never to be seen again. So, again, who is the 10th stage? I give that honor to none other than the Great Deku Tree. Yes, the Great Deku Tree is my 10. So now to break it down with races and everything. Yonobu, Goron, Riju, Gerudo, Teba, Rito, Sidon, Zora, Impa, Sheikah, Fi. I will put that in the AI technology category. Silent Princess, I feel that the Silent Princess is going to be a Zonai. Zelda is a Hylian. The Great Deku Tree is a Korok. And the Lord of the Mountain I would put under the realm of the spirits. Why? Well, for one, it looks like a spirit. And 2, it fits right in with the spirit realm that we saw in Skyward Sword, which, Fi basically gained us access to, just like the sages love to do. And we know that the spirit realm is in between Hyrule and the Sacred Realm. And I don't know about you, that Lord of the Mountain looks like it's in between both realms. So yeah, I think Spirit makes perfect sense. So now that I've justified each and every one of my sages, it's only right that I get into talking about my theory of 10,000 years prior to the events of Breath of the Wild and what happened in that tapestry. I want to break that down real quick, but before I get to that, I got to talk about my whole Temple of Time theory, which I pretty much described as the events of 10,000 years ago were basically being remembered in the Temple of Time. You had the 6 sages around Hylia, and the Silent Princess who fell, and Fi who also fell, being represented in each of the tombs. Well, scratch that completely, seeing as now there's 10 sages that we got to deal with. Here's how I'm going to justify the same idea still. So, the events that happened 10,000 years ago were the events that sealed Ganondorf the way we see him in the sequel to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. In that trailer, we see him already sealed. That had to happen in the, battle of 10,000 years ago to lead Zelda to believe that, oh yeah, the Calamity's going to come back. We got to collect all the champions and blah, blah, blah. You know what I'm saying? So, if that is the case, right, then the 6 characters around the Hylia statue are as follows: 4 champions, Impa being 5, and Zelda being 6. Those are the 6 statues. Now, in each tomb, I would say one is the Lord of the Mountain, which we know fell and it's now reincarnated in this current time period. And I would say it was there helping Link in the battle and all of that good stuff. And then finally would be the Silent Princess in the other one because of the ultimate sacrifice, trapping Ganondorf under there so that he could never rise again, even though I guess some of his calamities started oozing out of him. And then that's what caused the events to happen 100 years prior to the events of Breath of the Wild that we play. Now, I know, that's only 8. What's up with the other 2? Well, the other 2 are the Great Deku Tree, which if a tree can survive in the real world for 5,000 years, there's no reason why it couldn't survive in the mystical world of Hyrule for over 10,000 years. And the other is Fi, who's been around since before Hylia even sent the Hylians up into the sky. Now, this is all assuming that these events happen in order, and I've already established the idea that I don't think they did. Or maybe they did, and we're going to reverse the events of the way they happened. I'm not really sure. Time travel, man. It's weird. But here's what I do know. When you're looking at this beautiful tapestry here, you gotta take into consideration the fact that Link looks the way he looks, which I basically said that's because he's covered in all of the Silent Princess's awesome power. I would say the sword looks the way it looks is because the sword is covered in the power of the spirit animal, which is the Lord of the Mountain, which we know the Silent Realm ties into the Master Sword, so that can easily be the case. And then you got to look at each and every single one of these champions. They look nothing like the champions looked when they attacked the Calamity in Breath of the Wild's ending. They look nothing like it. Instead, it looks like my idea of the tech labs in Hyrule, the 2 that exist, may be expanded to each and every other region. And that's why each champion here looks like they're covered in the type of gear that Link gets in Breath of the Wild, representing each of their specific divine beast. And I like that idea that they're in tune so much with their divine beast, really unlocking all of its power. I can see that being actually the case. Maybe they even needed that armor in order to jump through time. Maybe Link didn't need it because Link is walking around with the power that is attached to the Silent Realm and the power of the Zonai, which I would like to believe has to do with time and everything, because the Zonai's whole thing is they've been around for a very, very long time, then they disappeared. Well, they were around a very long time ago, then they disappeared. So if they're still around, and just hiding, that can be a whole different dynamic. But I would like to think that the Zonai would involve time. The Zonai are weird, because I even look at Teba and I'm like, why is he wearing Zonai armor? It looks like it because he has the Zonai symbols, which you see on all of the different mazes that you can find around Hyrule, which is basically created by the Zonai. And I like to think of the loot that's coming out of Ganondorf, you know what I'm saying, circling out of him. The Gerudo text and all that could easily be representative of that loot also. But then I think about the fact that the Zonai did worship the great owls, and then I think about the Rito, and I think about this giant fat bird. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, maybe it's all linked. Maybe the Zonai are tied to every single race of Hyrule. You know what I'm saying? And that's something super interesting. It's all crazy interesting and, theories that are just supposed to be in good fun. But that's where I'm at right now. I think we're going to jump back in time, and we're going to destroy the Calamity and Ganondorf, not make the whole sacrifice happen with the Silent Princess and the hand and trapping Ganondorf, sealing him there forever, because all that did was create this event where, let's just say Zelda had a hand in that, right? A hand in that, you hear me? But yeah, the hand trapped Ganondorf. And then what happened to Zelda? The Calamity came back 10,000 years later, trapped Zelda, right? And then Zelda basically had to, in a sense, trap Link for 100 years for him to survive, because she couldn't let Link be reincarnated young, because the Calamity would probably just immediately destroy him. You know what I'm saying? So instead, she sealed him away so that he can come back fully trained, fully powered Beast Mode Link, which that's what Link was at the end of the day. Because remember, Link, yeah, he fell, but he was getting busy. And the events, 100 years prior to Breath of the Wild. Look, there's so many things that they can do. Breath of the Wild story, gets a lot of criticism for not being all in your face, but it's so deep. There's so much lore that you can pull from. And then when you start theorizing and things like that, you can just start running wild with it. And that's the best thing about Zelda. Zelda games stay doing that. And that's what I love about Zelda games. But now that I've gotten all of that out the way, I'm going to end this video by leaving you with a final justification for the idea of 10 sages. Because I know some of you are going to be real fun in the comments. So this is specifically for you. For those who are going to argue the idea of there being 10. So I take you one final time to Zelda Wiki. And I quote, "On the island of the dead in Phantom Hourglass, a graveyard can be found that includes graves for 6 sages and 3 other people. The graves of the 6 sages tell the directions that must be traveled in the corridor, while the inscriptions on the other 3 graves cannot be deciphered." So, if there's 6 graves, 3 uncrypted, that makes 9. So who would be the final one? Which sage hasn't been buried in the era of Phantom Hourglass? Tetra, our Princess Zelda. And when she dies, she'll be laid to rest right next to those other ones. You might be wondering now about Fi, but you know what Fi did. The ultimate sacrifice. You know. Man, that game's supposed to be kiddie. At least that's what they say. Wind Waker's so good. So damn good. But yeah, man, there you have it. 10. 10. 10. Will it be 10 in Breath of the Wild 2? Who knows? But this was all fun and games. And that is it for my ultimate theory of all theories. Just kidding. I just wanted to see how many of you would have gotten to that point right there and been like, man, he really justified everything. But wait, I missed something in the tapestry. I don't know how you say it, man. I think I've said it multiple ways already in this video. It doesn't really matter. Check this out. I gave this awesome point. Like I said, if a theory is going to work, it has to work no matter what, right? And everything that you said previously needs to still work with the new things that were thrown at you by the people who were trying to break and tear your theory down. So, here's what I got for that. In my previous video, you might remember an awesome moment when we went to the bottom of that awesome artwork, and then I counted out the 8 that were there, leading to the great statue of Hylia. Well, now you might be wondering, well, look, you ruined it. You ruined it again. You ruined it. Well, I justified the simpler time, and I'm here to justify this. It's simple. They failed 10,000 years ago. They failed completely. Why? Because there were 8 and not 10. And in Breath of the Wild 2, there will be 10. So Ganondorf, both are about to get their asses whipped. Officially. Properly, done right, and it's going to be beautiful. I cannot wait. But here we are, finally at the end of the theory of all theories, and the final thing that I need to nip in the bud so that there's no holes in my theories, and that, my friends, are the 8 heroines. Because I can hear it already, but there's only 8 heroines, there's only 8 heroines. Are there though? Are there really only 8? Let's do the math real quick. We know there's 7 in this area right here. We know of the 8th heroine. We know of Fi. Yes, the sword. We always applied it to the 8th heroine. How did it get there? Maybe that's Fi. And then when you go to the actual town of Gerudo, well, look what we have here. Another statue. That's 10. Oh yeah, and funny enough, I gotta mention this. I shouldn't, but I am, because I feel like I gotta end this one on the reach. Since people couldn't take the reach for what they were, it was just in good fun, man. The floor tiles was just for fun. But in this area right here, the most Gerudos I've ever seen in this actual room with this statue are 9 women. Statue being the 10th. I'm just saying. Until the next one, stay active. Peace.